Today, I'd like to welcome my friend Kevin Donovan. He is the founder of Fortis Sales Solutions. Welcome to Brand Cramp. This is our first edition or episode, whatever you'd like to call it. And why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, thanks for having me for one thing for the first edition. I love it. I work as a vice president of outsourced vice president of sales, an executive vice president of sales, chief revenue officer, chief sales officer, we call it sometimes. And what we do is we go in and we build the sales infrastructure for companies. And the reason I do this is because I've done it for 40 years in various industries. I've been in the insurance industry, the real estate industry, the construction business, the electrical business, the data center business. So I've sold tangible and intangible products, and selling is selling is selling. If you remember in college, we learned about widgets, right? Such a general term, but selling is selling. So, and I work closely with owners, small business owners, their leadership teams, and oftentimes the existing marketing firm or somebody that I may bring in because marketing and sales should go hand in hand.
Absolutely.
Um,
That,
so, what I find some of the customers' concerns are just that, they don't have a clear message, and they don't have people that can put that message out and follow up on the results of getting that message out. So that's why we're here today, right?
you got it. And it's a really nice segue. And you and I know that a brand is more than a visual identity. It's how people feel when they work for or with you as a company. When there's a disconnect between the business and the brand, it can impact a company's competitiveness, but ultimately their bottom line. And that's truly what I believe in. So today, as you mentioned, we're going to talk about the sales process and why it's important to align it with your company's brand and marketing efforts. The last time you and I talked, we talked about my experience. I've been on both sides of the marketing house. I've worked on the brand side and on the marketing side, or on the sales side. And while on the sales side, I was always begging to have the brand marketing folks work with me. And just for those who may not understand the distinction between the two, for me, the brand side is the visual identity, and it's the words that convey your mission, vision, and values. And on the sales side, what that is really it's about the call to action and the pain points. Even though I hate the word pain points, I want to market joy. But it's a distinction. One is a higher level, who we are and how we talk, and then the sales marketing side is how we position it, our call to action, and converting you. So that's sort of the two things. And when I've been on the sales side, I've died for the, hey, what is the identity? Because we need to be consistent. And how do we talk? Because we need to talk the way your sponsorships are talking, your TV commercials are talking, so that there's, no inconsistencies. So let's talk about the benefits of aligning your sales process with your brand and marketing process. You have experience in this. So let's talk about it.
My experience in being the architect of the infrastructure and the builder of the infrastructure in a in the sales end of the organization is closely tied to marketing. I often find companies, have a good marketing strategy, but the two teams are not connected. They don't have regular meetings together. The messages are blurred. The marketing team is out there shouting from the top of the mountain, "This is us. This is what we do. Here's our brand." And then sometimes when it gets to the sales end of it, they don't have the same message. They don't know why these people called. They don't know what was said to them. So there's a definitely a need to tie these two departments together very closely. With meetings, weekly meetings, biweekly meetings, at least monthly meetings, and to get both of them involved in each other's work. Um, the marketing department should want to know what the sales department's doing with their leads, and the sales department should want to know and have a say in what the message is. What do they believe their product is? So,
Yeah, I've worked for organizations where there has been a division between the two and they don't talk, um,
mm,
which creates a lot of pain.
A lot of cramps, right?
A lot of cramps, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because, you each have a budget, you each have results, and without, if you can't work together, you're not gonna achieve the common goals that are required to drive revenue and to do what you need to do for the organization.
Yeah.
Do you find that
Yeah.
your clients do this aligning before you work with them, or is that something that you need to focus on when you first take on a new client?
Well, it's an easier job when they're aligned before I come in. But many times they're not. Many times, I had, let's talk about somebody on this end. I had a company that had a very good reputation in the business. They picked up the phone, they answered it, they did great work on a technical product for their customers. But once we started to try to go out and they didn't do much marketing at all, not anything on social media, very little, on the internet, web traffic. They didn't have a great presence out there. They had a website, but it wasn't anything that was really getting much traction. And once we started to try to go out and build the sales department beyond people calling in, and we had to go out and reach out, there was a huge disconnect between the marketing, because the owner didn't really believe in it. He had built his
Mm.
company without it, yet he wanted to expand and didn't know how. And the marketing end of it was just not there. So that's the extreme over here. The extreme when I go, the other extreme is, yeah, when I go into a place, they've got a great marketing department. Um, and it's usually the sales department. Something's not working because that's why I'm called in there. The sales end of it is not, it's not doing the call to action properly. They're not doing the right things to qualify leads and warm them up and get them into the system,
And have you
and
found that you bridge that gap, that you come in and say, "Hey, guys, you gotta work more closely together. Here's sort of how it should be structured, have weekly meetings,"
yes,
Um,
yeah,
yeah, okay,
yes,
okay.
I go in, Aileen, and I snap my fingers, and all that just happens right away,
I
as
just
you
wonder
know,
how much you have to convince people to
as you
work
know,
together.
when we bring you in, they automatically just, step two,
Right, some people don't like marketing directors, though.
up and at 'em, yeah. Uh,
Be
No,
bossy.
it's a change, and sometimes it's a painful change, and I let people know that there's going to be change here, and the way we do things, and we're going to be effective in what we do. So that's why I'm there. Um, but usually when I'm on that end where yeah the marketing department is doing their job and the sales department isn't, it takes time. It takes time.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
one of the things we look at is do we have the right people there?
Yeah,
That's one of the
yeah.
first things.
I'm thinking too, with some of my clients who also don't necessarily believe they need marketing because marketing is such a vague concept for people, for most
Yeah,
people.
yeah,
You really have to prove yourself before they agree that maybe it's needed. And I can see on the sales side, because that's feet on the street, and they're the ones who are talking to the customers, to have someone in
mm,
marketing say, well, position it this way or that way. They're like, I have a script, it works. I'm not going to listen to you. And it's very hard.
it
Their
is.
incentive isn't to work with marketing, it's to close that sale, so it can be
Yeah.
difficult.
Well, many companies have that. Director of sales and marketing or vice president of sales and marketing. They have those two terms together, but they're not often together.
Correct, correct. It's tough. It's tough. So you mentioned, and we're talking about clients who believe they have a great product, but it doesn't sell well, and yet they resist the marketing or branding process. Let's dive a bit deeper into your experience with this. And I can tell you, I have a client who is probably one of the hardest working people I know, and she launched two or three different businesses in a year that were all connected, and yet she didn't see the connection, and she had a huge brand cramp because she wasn't selling anything. And, she felt that her product was good enough that it should be selling. And simple things like, hey, I put a cow in the email. Everyone should love that cow. It's so cute. And I would have to remind her, but they have to open the email to see the cow.
Mhm.
So what kind of situations, and that's a brain cramp to me. So what kind of situations have you experienced like that with your clients?
Well, you mentioned an email, opening up an email. Typically, you have to touch somebody numerous times, 7 to 9, maybe 11 times now, sometimes, because with either an email, on social media, a newsletter, a phone call, uh, a handwritten note to someone before they've seen you 7 or 8 times, and finally they go, "Oh, I think I'm going to call that woman that sent me the cow." And it's repetition. It's when you drive by a realtor's sign every day to go to work, and you might see only one or two of their signs. In 2 weeks, you'll go, boy, their signs are all over the place, but there's only two or three of them. So it's kind of that mentality. It's really repetition if you're trying to get a new customer, someone that hasn't called you, that hasn't reached out and found your product, someone you're trying to nurture as a lead. It takes time, and it
Yeah.
takes many different touches and many different kinds of touches. Uh,
Have you experienced resistance to really do that? I mean, do you have clients who come in and say, you need to fix this one thing because that's the only thing that's broken, and you come to find that maybe that's the thing that works the best, and that maybe there's 3 or 4 new things that need to happen?
oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that well, there's two things I have as answers, to working with somebody effectively is there something wrong that I can fix? Um, and there's a bunch of questions I ask to figure that out. And do I like the person enough to work with them? Because I know they're going to listen to me and install the processes or the philosophy that I'm trying to work with them on. Um, so yeah,
Awesome. So back in our day,
our day, still
sales,
our day, Aileen.
right,
Come on.
exactly. Sales departments, and I
We,
love this because I love how things change over time. But sales departments relied heavily on tactics like door-to-door sales. Like
mm,
people actually went door to door selling
yeah,
products. Maybe not our day selling vacuums, but that was done. Encyclopedias, newspapers, as my
insurance
husband.
was sold that way.
Yeah, and then you had a
Fuller
year
Brush, remember
marketing.
Fuller Brush?
Yeah, and you'd have
Yeah,
event marketing. You'd go park your butt
HG.
and Stop and Shop and sell something. To the full blown events and outbound telemarketing. And for the kids these days, they probably have no clue what that is. You'd have a
Yeah.
room full of people who had an auto dialer and they dial everybody at dinner time to try and sell them something. Um, and that was a pretty heavy duty sales channel. Like if you did it right, you generated millions of dollars in
Yeah.
business. Um, but what with the internet here and everything online, like let's talk a little bit about that. How has that changed? Because there is so much you can do online. You can target people, you can tag people, you can bug them 24/7. So what's the sales mix these days?
It's all those things that you said. Door to door obviously was an easy way to get in front of somebody's face, which is what you want to do eventually, right? Is get in front of them.
And if
Um,
people would open their doors back then, remember?
People wouldn't open them, then you don't. you know
Now you have the Ring camera and it's attached to
yeah,
people's watches and you're talking to them, they're
yeah,
like, who's at my front door,
yeah, and they're not even at their house, they're at work.
right?
you know but that's the face to face now, probably more so than ever. So Zoom meetings and things like that. But social media is big. Search engine optimization, pointing your website at the folks you want to, the areas you want to, the customers you want to. There's so many AI tools that you can use that will aggregate customers and your ideal customer for you, number of employees, sales, geographics, demographics, titles. And then you've got, how do you point your arrow towards
Yeah.
them? It's all those things I said: emails, phone calls. There's now services that do written letters, written notes. and cards. Um,
Really?
I will send that out for you. And that is, I'm getting bombarded with folks like that, and it works. Um,
Yeah.
if you get a card from somebody twice, you'll open it.
Especially if something's attached.
Especially if you've seen their
Yeah.
email a few
Yeah.
times
Yep.
and maybe a phone call. And
Yeah.
one of the things that I tell my people is, because I'm sure you're annoyed by this, is when someone calls and they never leave a message.
Yeah.
So it's a telemarketing call, or it's an automated call. And while automated calls can, yeah, you can get the numbers out of them, they people don't answer them and they don't like them.
Correct.
If somebody pauses when you pick up the phone,
You know to hang up. Yeah.
it's waiting for someone to come on, even that type of call. So I encourage the sales folks that I manage to reach out in those ways: social media, email, phone calls, notes. Um, it's difficult to make a cold call today, actually, but that's not a bad thing if you can get to see somebody.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to make the distinction between outbound telemarketing and calls, the reason why you can tell you're telemarketed is that pause, because the call is on a dialer and the dialing is regulated and you can only have so many abandoned calls, et cetera, et cetera. So there's
Yeah,
all sorts of tricks to the trade there, but nothing beats one person placing a phone call from their cell phone or their desk phone to a lead saying,
yeah,
hello, I saw you, I'd like to connect. And then if they don't connect, leave a message. And that's the same thing I work with an insurance employee benefit brokerage firm. And I tell the brokers all the time, leave a message. 90% of the people are not going to pick up the phone. This is your opportunity
yeah.
to talk to them because they're going to listen to the message, and you shouldn't be nervous. Just leave a really good message, clear how to get in touch with you, and you're generating a warm lead.
Yeah, and it's all about, we're talking about reaching out and automatic marketing and search engines and social media. That's what the sale comes down to, is a personal relationship with that person that's buying it, or
Yep.
that committee that's buying it. And if there's no personal relationship, if you can't get to talk to them and have them get to know you and you know them, there's nothing's going to happen, right?
Right.
Uh, so all these ways of getting in touch with somebody, these phone calls, they're actually, when I have a salesperson, I say, look, make 5 calls today. Just make 5 phone calls today, um, and to new people that you want to reach out to. Leave a message, and if you talk to one and you get to have a conversation with them, that just builds a lot of confidence in that person. They got to talk about their product. They got to talk to somebody who might be interested in it, and off they go.
Yeah.
It really elevates your mood and validates what you're doing.
Yeah, and it
Uh,
and it gives you the courage to make more calls,
Absolutely,
which is the
yeah,
most important part.
yeah. It's old school, but it's not old school. It's you have to do it. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
unless you just want to throw everything up against the wall
Yeah.
and see what sticks.
True. And it is about the relationship. It's who you know. And you can get a sense of who people are on social media, but you can't really get to know who they are unless you meet them or talk to them. One of the most important things about any sales organization or any marketing that you do for a sales organization are measures for success. And one of the things that I think at times sets me apart from other marketing folks is that anything I do always has an objective. And, I don't want folks investing money in my services until we're clear on why they need those services and what they feel it will deliver. So it's important to set your sales process up to learn so you can pivot if you have to, or you can, celebrate a success and keep on doing it. So let's talk about KPIs first. What are the KPIs these days? And then let's talk about some of the tools that are on the horizon or that are being used that are neat.
Well, as you know, so KPIs, key indexes on how you're doing, can vary depending on the industry, your goals, your specific objectives. And, it is essential to uh, choose the right indicators that align with the strategy and, provide the actions that you want, right, to get to your goals. So you have leading and lagging indicators, or leading and lagging KPIs. A leading indicator of KPI would be website traffic. What is your website traffic? How many visitors and what pages are they viewing? Can indicate the level of interest, right? If there's a call to action, who's filling out a form? So that's a warm lead, right? That comes into your CRM, your customer relationship management software. And there's so many out there today, and they're very automated, where you can take website traffic and see who's out there. You can actually see who's on your website with a lot of these CRMs right now. You can see what pages they're on, how long they're there, where they're from, what country they're from. And then if there's a call to action, they'll fill out a form and you can get their email and that. So address and phone number. So website traffic is big. Social media engagement is another one. Metrics like how many shares do you have? How many comments do you get on something? Who's commenting? And how many people are following you? I was on the website today, got invited to a webinar, and I'm like, who is this guy? He had 43,000 followers on LinkedIn.
Wow.
So I'm like, well, he's people know him,
Yeah.
So that's a good indicator. Email subscriptions, who's you're sending newsletters out to, and who's staying on, who's reading them. You can get your marketing module in CRM can tell you who's opening them, who's unsubscribing to them, what pages they're clicking on. So those are leading ones. In the sales pipeline activity, what are those things generating for leads? And are they good leads? Are they the right leads, right? What's your conversion rate? If we're not converting a lot of them, it could be a couple of different problems. Nobody's calling them. Somebody's calling them and telling them the wrong thing, or we're not getting the right leads. So that's where that meeting of the minds of sales and marketing needs to happen. Hey, we got 70 leads this week. We only converted 2. What happened? Well, our website was pointed towards England, and people don't like our product in England. They just don't use it, right? So those types of KPIs, conversion rate is big. Meetings booked, obviously. Are you booking meetings and demos and whatever you do?
I find that the meetings are very hard to book.
Well, they're hard to book, but you gotta, if they're hard to book, then we know something's gone wrong. Something's gone wrong, right?
So what's an example of a lagging KPI? Because I've never heard that.
So a lagging KPI is revenue. It's what you've done before, right? We did, 2 million last month. We did 1 million the month before. The year before, last month, we did 1.5 million. Those are lagging indicators. What did we do last month to have more? That's something you look back on as an indicator of a KPI. What is your profit margin, right?
Yep.
What did you sell it at? Your customer retention rate, that's a lagging indicator.
Yeah.
How many customers, if you're a subscription product, churn rate, how many customers stopped using your product or service after a year or 6 months over a specific period of time? That could be changes in the company, could be customer dissatisfaction. So those are lagging indicators. And then obviously the profitability, how much are you spending on marketing? Do we need to spend? We're spending it in these areas, right? We're paying this much per click here. Maybe we should put something into, a different search engine, or YouTube is now getting getting attention. So the profitability of the investment in marketing is an indicator too.
So in your role, do you establish those KPIs and the ways to measure them, or do you? Okay.
Yes, we do. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. We use, the CRM that they're using, if they're using one. If they're not using a CRM, again, that's a customer relationship management software. Everybody's heard of that. But it's things like Salesforce, Clarity Soft, Mondays, Sugar. There's a bunch of them out there. Pipe Drive, and they all work. They all do many of the same things, and they all do most of the things that you need to, set your goals and set your KPIs and measure that stuff. So, and getting people to use it is
Yeah. So that's the hard
thing.
part, but I have to tell you, nothing is more exciting as data when you're a marketer.
Yeah,
But like the numbers don't lie, as they say. I don't know who said that or what industry it was in, but numbers really don't lie. And with numbers, you can see trends and
yeah,
move the needle, which is fun. I need a CRM.
yeah.
I
Well,
will.
yeah, and so in the management part of our infrastructure, that's a big that's something we really try to get salespeople to do.
And how often do you look at it?
Usually once a week at a meeting.
Okay.
Everybody knows, what's being looked at, and you have the same agenda for, every week for the sales meeting, so that there's no surprises, right? Here's what we want. We want 20 outgoing calls a day or 20 outgoing calls a week. How many did we get last week? Well, we only got 10, or we got 50, and we talk about them. Is there an issue with them? Is there not an issue? If there isn't, we move on. And so we look at them, and if there's issues with them and somebody needs help with something, that's the management part of it. You have to manage those numbers, and make sure they're accurate too.
Yeah.
Because you did say, numbers don't lie, but the wrong numbers lie.
True.
And if they're not accurate, and sometimes you got to take them with a grain of salt, because hey, I didn't get a chance to put my calls in. That's we don't want salespeople spending all their day inputting information, but the sales CRMs today are so easy to do. You can talk into your phone and put them in. So
Yeah.
we try to try to take all the crutches away from them to get the right information into CRM so that we can use it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a fun part of your job, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
It is. All right. So as we end this episode, let's leave our listeners with 3 considerations for running a successful sales organization.
3 considerations. Well, I would say one of them is, and you can apply this to recent news. There's news about, there's recessions in other countries, and the economy's, going to take a dive. So don't listen to the news.
I like that.
Don't listen to the bad news, because there's always opportunities. I've been in sales and sales manager for 40 years, and I've never made less, year over year, because of a bad economy. And there's been bad economies in the last 40 years. So there's always opportunities out there for you, and you've got to keep your head up high. Do you have the right people? One thing I do before I go into a company is I look who's off limits, who's not. We may have to move some people around, or if
Let's back up. I love that. Who's off limits, who's not. I love that.
Yeah. Because I get into family businesses, small businesses. And maybe the son is not the best person to be selling. Maybe the owner is not the best person to be selling. I need to have that conversation with
But
them.
if they're off limits, maybe they stay where they are and you build an organization around them.
Maybe
Right?
not.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe there's
Wow.
another seat for them.
Oh, true.
I really believe right people in the right seat. If they have the skills, they get the job, they want it, and they have the capability of doing it. Those are the
So you dip
measures.
into culture too a little bit, not just the sales organization, but culture, because that's tough. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's all part of it. I mean, this isn't all numbers and metrics and all that. It's getting the people to work in a culture that is a positive culture. All companies have different cultures, and they the people that work there have to fit in there. That's a really important part of the puzzle and part of the building of it. And you know, there's assessments you can do to figure out if people do fit in the culture, you know.
Yeah, and that actually that's a really great segue to the concept of assessments, because I know in your company you also do assessments to find the right salespeople and that kind of stuff, which is cool. And we'll save that for another podcast. But I love
Yeah.
that whole idea of assessments because that takes the personal away.
Yeah, it does. It starts at the top, and the
Yeah,
person at the top and the leadership figures out what the, you know, who's the person we want to model everybody after that we want to have work here, you know.
yeah, yep,
Important to identify that those the person and their personality and what makes them, you know, a good employee and a good person for the company.
that's awesome. All right, so the top three things we have, there's always opportunity, which I love. I love the glass half full perspective. Do you have the right people? And the third thing, what about proper tools and resources?
Yep, proper tools and resources. And that's where we come in with, um, you know, the architect and the building of the sales department, you know, all the things that we just talked about. Do you have marketing? Do you have the
Okay,
resources for marketing? You
yep,
know, when I go into a company, if they want to build their sales department and they need to hire two people, do they have the money to do it? Do they have the resources to do it? And once those sales start coming in, do they have the people to support it? Right? Salespeople need support.
right,
Um, they need, if they're not quoting things and somebody else is quoting it, an engineer or an engineering department, is the engineering department going to be overloaded? So, yeah, resources are key, and the tools today, you know, can help you. You know, you'll spend money on some of the tools, but you'll spend less on people sometimes because the speed at which we can do things today, you know, is ever changing, as you know.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you, Kevin. Till next time.
Thank you, Aileen. Pleasure, my pleasure.
Woohoo! Okay, Amina, anything to add?
No, that was pretty cool.
Thanks for having me as your first guest. Yeah, wow.